We can now go to speak to the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog. Good morning, Mr. Herzog.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to all.
Last night, Israel attacked several targets in Lebanon. Do you accept that whatever the justification for doing so, escalation of the conflict could trigger an all-out regional war?
It is clearly a very dangerous situation and clearly has a potential of escalating dramatically, but we have to understand the situation in prima facie, meaning Hezbollah started this war. It started following the horrendous attack of Hamas on October 7th. Hezbollah since then has been bombarding us endlessly. Almost 100,000 Israelis have been evacuated from their homes. The entire north has been shattered. We kept on being restrained and restrained and restrained, but something has to end. We have to bring our citizens back to their homes. That's the most natural obligation of any nation to its citizens.
Are you saying now that Israel has decided, in essence, to abandon restraint, that the walkie-talkie bombs, the air attacks in the last few days are really the way that things are going to happen from now on?
I actually reiterated over the weekend the simple message of Israel. We do not want war. We absolutely did not seek this war. We didn't want this war. This war was instigated by the empire of evil, the Iranian proxies in the region under the command of Iran, from the south, from Hamas, from the north by Hezbollah, from Yemen by the Houthis, from Iraq, from all over the place as part of a strategy. As the supreme leader of Iran just said yesterday, that Israel is a tumor that must be removed. So therefore, Israel is fighting for its well-being, its existence, its citizens. That's what we are doing, and we are doing whatever is the right thing to do. Think for a moment. Had the Bournemouth citizens been evacuated to Manchester for a year under attacks from one of the neighbors or Brighton, how long would the British government be restrained? So we actually decided to change the equation, and we are working to change this equation, meaning we have to bring our hostages back from Gaza, and we have to make sure that this attack does not recur from Gaza, and we have to make sure that this attack does not recur again from Lebanon. That's all there is. It's very simple, and life can go on in a peaceful manner on an internationally recognized boundary between Israel and Lebanon.
Mr. President, I want to come back to some of those issues in a second, but just if we can get one thing clear. Is Israel now at war with Lebanon?
Israel is not interested to be at war with Lebanon. I'm actually saying something very, very clear. We do not want to get into a war with Lebanon, but Lebanon has been hijacked by a terror organization, which is also a political party in Lebanon, called Hezbollah. It's been armed to its teeth by the Iranian empire of evil. And all of these leaders who were eradicated on Friday by the Israeli attack, all of these leaders were meeting together in order to launch the same horrific, horrendous attack that we had on October 7th by Hamas, by burning Israelis, butchering them, raping their women, abducting and taking hostage old people and young and little babies. This is exactly the same plan that they've been planning for years under the plans of the empire of evil of Iran. So we are fighting, actually, the whole war, the war for the entire free world. That's what we are doing. We don't want to get to war. We don't. We want to bring our citizens back to their homes on the border with Lebanon.
Mr. President, let's talk about how Israel has prosecuted this war. It's generally assumed that Israel's security forces were behind the exploding pages and walkie-talkies last week. Whoever was behind those attacks, they could not possibly be sure, even if they were aimed at the people you've just illustrated, they could not be sure of who was going to be in the room, in the chair at that point. And in this particular case, others who were not amongst that group were killed, including children. Is this a legitimate way to prosecute a war?
First of all, I reject out of hand any connection to this or that source of operation. All I say is that just at the opening of the Olympic Games, 12 Israeli children of the Druze religion were murdered by a terrible missile attack, rocket attack by Hezbollah in Majd al-Shams, where they were playing football. Your network is a very distinguished one and is quite connected to the world of football. There are terrible tragedies in this war, and we never want to get there. But we have the inherent right to defend ourselves, and the fact is that houses have been demolished, Israelis were killed, Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Druze, all in the northern part of Israel, where they live peacefully. They're evacuated from their home for a year, and Hezbollah keeps on sending its missiles against our people endlessly. At the end, you have the right to defend yourself. You're trying to convince them. There was a huge American effort. There's an outstanding American diplomat, Amos Hochstein, who went back and forth. It did not help. They keep on fighting, and we have to take steps in order to defend our people.
Mr. President, I don't think anybody would argue about Israel's right to defend itself. I think the question that I'm asking you about is the manner of the defense. And just to be getting one thing clear, are you saying that Israel denies any responsibilities for those explosions this week, and that you think they might have been the responsibility of someone else, like, for example, the Druze?
I did not allude to anything except saying that there are many enemies of Hezbollah out there, quite a few these days. Hezbollah has been choking Lebanon, destroying Lebanon, creating havoc in Lebanon again and again and again. We are here simply to defend ourselves. That's all we do. And we make clear that we have to take action like any normal nation would do, like Britain would do, or any other sovereign nation in order to defend its people.
Let me ask you then about Israel's position in the world. British government suspended... Sorry,
go on.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Mr. President? Yes. Let me ask you now about Israel's standing. Thank you. Can I ask you about Israel's standing in the world? Britain has suspended export license for some weapons components, restored funding to UNRWA, and withdrawn its opposition to the prosecution of your Prime Minister in the International Criminal Court. Do you understand why relations between Israel and some of its traditional allies might be cooling just a year after the world stood shoulder to shoulder with Israel because of October 7th? Do you understand how and why things have changed?
You know, we are a democracy, and we are a vibrant, aggressive democracy, aggressive in the sense of debate. Believe me, we have Israeli media at least equals the American or the British media. We have at least hundreds of thousands of demonstrators every week against the government. It's part of a beautiful, proud democracy. And sometimes I'm quite surprised at our friends. I believe our friends should understand that we are fighting the war, their war too, in the long term. You have to understand that there is an empire of evil which really thinks and believes as part of an ideology in the jihadist ideology, in conquering the Middle East and moving on into Europe and the rest of the world. They call you Satans. They want to plant bomb in your cities all over the world. Hezbollah has terror cells situated in countries all over the world. And you ask yourself, why? How come Iran armed a tribe in Yemen called the Houthis on the seashore of the Red Sea, and they're affecting the cost of living of each and every British family or European family or American family? This cannot go on.
Mr. President,
the world has to make
I'm sorry to
Iran that this cannot go on.
I know you have to go. So does that mean that you are disappointed in the way that the British government has acted in the last few weeks towards Israel, the new British government?
Look, we have outstanding relations with the British government. We have outstanding relations with the people of Britain. I have personally very close affinity with His Majesty's government and with Britain at large. But we also have to understand that between friends, we expect friends and allies to be there for us all the time as we are for them. And clearly, yes, it's true, there is a certain sense of disappointment in Israel. There is a sense of disappointment in Israel, and I expressed it to my friends. I met with Prime Minister Starmer at the opening of the Olympic Games. We expect that all our allies will be side by side with us in combating this terrible situation and fighting like we are to bring back our hostages home. There are 101 Israeli hostages there, and 352 days they are in the dungeons of Gaza.
Can I ask you then, if bringing back the hostages is important, getting towards peace and so on, the countries, as you put it, is united against Hamas, it's united against Hezbollah, but it is deeply divided, as you yourself said, there are demonstrations every week and so on, about your own government. Is Mr. Netanyahu and his government the right set of people to reach a settlement?
I think it's an unfair question. I work very closely with the Prime Minister of Israel and with his government, and I will work with any government and any Prime Minister. Netanyahu is the third Prime Minister in my term as President of the State of Israel. The misleading information here is that in order to bring the hostages back and exit from the war, we need to understand that the one who's blocking this is Yahya Sinwar, the commander of Hamas, and the leader of Hamas, who's in the caves in Gaza, in the tunnels, and with his allies. If you think, look at Nasrallah. One last sentence. Nasrallah from Hezbollah. Yes. He says specifically and implicitly, you know, that all his war against us has to do with Gaza. So in order to change that equation, one has to fight in order to change the equation. And that is exactly what we're trying to do.
One last important question, if I may. You've mentioned Iran. You've described it as an empire of evil. How far is Israel prepared to go to battle against Iran? Do you see a situation in which Israel might one day send missiles against targets in Iran? And how far, how savage could this conflict become?
Well, that is exactly the question on the table of the international community. Israel has always made clear that it will go all the ways that's needed in order to defend and protect its people and to remove any threats that are existential to the state of Israel, the only nation state of the Jewish people around the globe, a democracy which has Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, and so many other religions, beliefs, lifestyle, and all. We are very proud of our nation. Again, I say specifically, we did not want this war. This war was launched against us by Hamas and now by Hezbollah. But we have to remove that threat and enable our people to live in peace. That's all we're asking, like any decent nation around the globe.
And you will remove it by any and all of your weapons? You're ready to use any and all of your weapons?
Now you're starting to go into all sorts of theoretical. I don't intend to reply in such a manner. This is a totally different question than the question of today.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Good day to all of you.